Introduction by Kamala Das. One of our few significant poets writing in English today, Kamala Das made an instant appeal with her very first collection Summer in Calcutta 1965. An introduction is taken from the collection of Summer in Calcutta. An introduction is perhaps the most famous of the poems written by Kamala Das in a self-reflective and confessional tone. The poem is a strong remark on patriarchal society prevalent today and brings to light the miseries, bondage, pain suffered by the inferior sex in such times. This is also an autobiographical poem. The poem, an introduction, bears ample testimony to it. Walt Whitman once said of his own poems, "Who so touches this book touches a woman." With the change in outlook and setting forth of women's liberation, many of the modern women poets have taken recourse to frank expression, of which some striking examples are to be found in the poetry of Kamala Das. Her frankness gave strength to her poetry, taking her cue from the modernist movement in poetry. She believes in the sincere treatment of the material. In trying to establish intimate tone, she gives unabashed, not ashamed, expression to her personal themes. In Kamala Das's sketch, the desire for self-expression took two forms. One is her obvious desire was to write, and the second is very obvious desire for sexual expression. At this two levels, Kamala Das wants to express herself. So, she is not comfortable with patriarchal family system which refuses to give women a space. Rather, this system expects women to be bounded by a space carved out by the patriarchy and which also decides on the kind of roles a woman can play. She either must be a daughter or a good wife or a good mother or a cook or an embroiderer, etc. These are the only expectations with which the traditional society is built up. In this society, the female mind is less important in comparison female body. Apart from all these, another very important level at which Kamala Das figures is in her deep spirituality. She also understands the Bhakti tradition of India. In Indian Bhakti tradition, it is seen that all the devotees, Bhakta, like Chaitanya, Mirabai, they are craving for union with God. But the craving is always seen or expressed in terms of human love. This is a strong erotic content in bhakti poetry. One cannot express an abstract love for God except in terms of the love one understands, which is human love. Therefore, unless one goes through the body, one cannot go to the soul. An introduction, the word and make the poem not for an introduction of poetess Kamala Das. An article make the title universal. An article implies the poem to universal, that the poem is just not only about the poetess Kamala Das, is all person, especially the women, introduction. She expresses that the introduction of women that has no place in society. So she trying to express her inner voice of. The poem and introduction begins with Kamala Das's distaste for politics. She does not care for even politicians. She says, "I don't know politics, but I know the name of those in power and can repeat them like days of week or names of months, beginning with Nehru." Actually, she does not want to bother any hegemonic ideology of politics. She is very much disappointed with politicians. Here, Kamala Das has very tactfully deconstructed the names of those in power with repeating them like days, week, or names of months. Thus, at the very beginning, the poetess has wanted to make herself free from political hegemony. The poet starts explaining by saying that she does not know the politics, yet she is well aware of the politicians of her country, from Nehru to the ones of her own times. And as the politics of India has always remained in fewer hands of males, she has memorized the names of all the politicians like the days of the week or the names of the month. The lines depict how the males have been ruling the country without giving this right to the women. Moreover, the rulers are fewer in numbers because democracy exists only words. In reality, the rule of the country remains in the hands of some people only who have assumed themselves to be the permanent rulers. The patriarchal society exclaims men as the rulers of country. I am Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. I speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. After giving her comments on politics and politicians, next she describes herself saying that she is an Indian, born in Malabar and very brown in color. She speaks in 3 languages, writes in 2, dreams in 1, articulating the thought that dreams have their own universal language. She reflects her complex identity and cultural background. She identifies as Indian, which signifies her nationality and cultural heritage. Very brown likely refers to her skin color, indicating her physical appearance as a person with darker skin, which is a common trait among many Indians born in Malabar. Specifies her place of birth, which is a region in Kerala, India. Like most of the citizens of India, she is also capable of speaking 3 languages and writing in 2, probably the English and her native language. She says that she dreams of one because of the world of dreams is common to all. In this world, everyone is an individual, male or female, uses the same universal language. Dream has his own language, there is no fixed language. Particular social types of having patronized mentality that the women has no right to dream. They do not have the right of expression of language. Society set up the introduction for women. They has no language or expression to exploit their expression. Don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue. Why not leave me alone, critics, friends, visiting, cousins, every one of you? Why not let me speak in any language I like? The language I speak becomes mine. Distortions its queerness, all mine, my alone. Kamala thus echoes that the medium of writing is not as significant as in the comfort level that one requires. People asked her not to write in English since it is not her mother tongue. Kamala thus highlights the criticism and societal pressure she faced for choosing to write in English, a language that was not her mother tongue. Kamala thus was a prominent Indian writer who often wrote in English, even though her native language was Malayalam. In this line, she captures the skepticism and bias she encountered from those who believed that she should stick to writing in her mother tongue to preserve cultural authenticity. Another reason to choose English in her writing is challenging the conventional notions of language and identity. It reflects her determination to break free from linguistic boundaries and follow her creative path, regardless of the language she chose to write in. Why not leave me alone, critics, friends, visiting cousins, every one of you? The poet expresses a desire for solitude and a sense of belonging to the language, away from the influence and interference of the agents of society, including critics, friends, and visiting relatives. Why not let me speak in any language I like? The poet expresses her frustration with linguistic limitations imposed by cultural norms or expectations. Kamala thus might be advocating for the idea of language is a tool for personal expression and should not be confined by boundaries or judgments. This sentiment reflects her belief in the power of language to convey emotions, thoughts, and experiences, regardless of the language's origin or the preferences of others, and also seen as a plea for linguistic independence. The language I speak becomes mine. Its distortion, its queerness, all my alone. She emphasizes that the language she speaks becomes her own. All its imperfection and queerness becomes her own. The poet depicts a sense of belonging to the language. Mine is the marker. It shows the possessiveness. It is here. The word is used, mine. Instinctive desire to express herself. Here Kamala thus provide her own definition of language. Her language directly comes from her heart and own idea of the world. Distortion and queerness, the words, shows the against of master politics of language. Her awareness, her knowledge of the world is getting palpable in her usages of languages. She is acutely aware that English is the virile of all languages. It also reflects her deep connection to language as a means of self-expression and her willingness to make her own with all its individual characteristics. It is half English, half Indian. Funny perhaps, but it is honest. It is as human as I am human, don't you see? It is half English, half Hindi. Seems rather amusing, but his point is that it is honest. The poet depicts her complex identity and cultural background, and she acknowledges the mix of cultures and languages is in her identity, considering it slightly amusing but genuinely truthful. She believes that her identity, like anyone else's, is authentic and relatable because it's as human as she is. It also reflects her recognition of the complexity of human identity and her assertion that the various elements that make up who she is should be accepted without judgment. It voices my joys, my longings, my hopes, and it is useful to me as going. It is to cross or roaring to the lions at is human speech, the speech of the mind that is here and not there, a mind that sees and hears and is aware. It reflects the joys, languages, and hopes of a human, internal property in one word, charm. She also says about her association with English language with help of images taken from nature. She says as cawing naturally comes to a crow, roaring comes to naturally to a lion. Language is only a vehicle of expression. Human is the only one has mind, and except human all creatures are instinct. To her, language is project of enlightenment. Therefore, man is superior to any other creatures of world. Not the deep blind speech of trees in storm or of monsoon clouds or of rain or the incoherent mutterings of the blazing funeral pyre. She contrasts it with the deep and blind speech of trees in storm or of monsoon clouds or of rain or the incoherent muttering of the blazing funeral pyre. Here she gives a number of images and they are all incoherent. The images are also taken from nature. To Kamala Das, much of nature is incoherent, but her language is not like that. Her language is coherent. She says, it is as human as I am human. The agents of society creates an artificial blind speech of trees in storm or of monsoon. The agents of society creates an artificial magus against original magus. Society does not want to make epistemic violence. Kamala Das is associating her identity with the language. Language is her own identity. Here, the language politics is end. Next day, we will start body politics. Okay? Thanks for watching me. Bye-bye.